Okay, it's a bit unexpected, but I guess I'm going to be talking about Goodbye Tsugumi by Banana Yoshimoto today, translated by Michael Emmerich. Um, I took, I finished Sisters in Yellow last night, and I took this to work today, knowing that there would be not much to do until the afternoon, and I ended up just reading the whole thing at work while I was bored and waiting for things to happen. So here we are with the review. And on that note, I do have to say that today was the last day that I'll be seeing one of the teachers that I've been working with. And the fact that this is a book that is so big on memories and reminiscence of the past and whatnot means that it hit pretty hard emotionally. Not super hard, but I definitely am not going to be coming at this from like the most unbiased place in terms of the book just happened to really catch a mood that I'm in right now, which doesn't make it a flawless book. The translation is definitely not flawless, in my opinion, but we'll kind of get into that later. So, plot summary. The book follows a character named Maria, or probably Maria, but as she's looking kind of back on her life when she grew up in this rural seaside. It's an island, I think, because she takes a ferry to it, but I'm not sure. Sort of town where her mother is staying at a Japanese inn with her aunt, and her aunt has two daughters, and one of the daughters is Tsugumi, and Tsugumi is a very frail, very sickly child who will not live very long, it's kind of assumed, and yet because she was kind of pampered and spoiled, she acts out very selfishly, is very crass, very harsh, but in a lot of ways it's also obvious that a lot of this is kind of her way of living her life and not being the kind of weak individual that she is physically, and trying to fight against the sort of fate that has been dealt to her. So the book starts with Maria in Tokyo, having moved to Tokyo with her mother so that they can live with their dad. And she's reminiscing about her time growing up in this place. And then she gets a letter saying the inn that she grew up in is going to be shut down. So why don't you come back for one last summer vacation? And she does. And the book is kind of that, her last summer vacation in this place. Before the family shuts down the inn and moves somewhere else. So, would I recommend this book? It's the same as any Banana Yoshimoto book. If you like Banana Yoshimoto's work, yes, read it. If you don't like Banana Yoshimoto's work, or you find it a bit sentimental, because that's kind of the big thing with all of Banana Yoshimoto's work, is that it's very sentimental. And like I said, right now, being in the place that I'm at emotionally, it works for me. It hits me pretty hard because I'm in this transitory state, like the characters in the book, where I'm only going to be in Japan for a few more months. I'm kind of saying my final goodbyes to some people, and while it's not the hardcore end of the line, it's definitely the end of an era. And as with all Banana Yoshimoto books, she captures the sort of sentimentality of that well, the feeling of that well, but I don't think that there's like a ton of depth to it beyond sort of her ability to capture the events and those emotions, and kind of little factoids of life here and there, but and while they have more depth than something that you could find on a Hallmark card, they definitely aren't like super nuanced or anything like that. Just kind of a calm, simple, but nonetheless, I think kind of beautiful way of looking at life and a way of capturing emotions. So if that sounds like your bag, if you're looking for something with a lot of depth to it, this ain't it. But if you're just looking for something that gives you sort of nice emotional ride, captures the sort of emotions in these transitory states, a sort of very warm book, then absolutely I would recommend it. So getting into the pros and the cons, like I said, in terms of cons, the translation I don't think is super great. Mostly in the sense that Tsugumi has a very distinct way of talking, given her crassness, but the way that this has been translated has stuff like her calling Maria, who's only a year older than her, babe, and saying like, man, it's really hot today, or whatever. Like, this is one of these sort of conflicts between translation and localization, where this feels like it was heavily localized, and it feels like, oh god, when was it published? Let me see if I can find really quickly when this book was published, because I just struggle. Okay, the book was written in 1989 and the translation was 2002. Man, 2002 is still feels surprisingly recent, because like I don't know who's saying like babe to another girl. It feels like just completely out of a different era. And this is where I don't know if in the original Tsugumi talked this way and it was deliberately out of a different era, or if this was just how they chose to localize it, or if this is a case of the localization made sense at the time but has aged, and so coming to it in English, these localized terms are just so horrifically out of date. I don't know. I mean, given that the book was written in the 80s, maybe this is the way that she was talking. I don't know. It just really stands out as unnatural to me. But it really stands out as unnatural to me as somebody who has lived in Japan for 5 years. And, well, obviously I wasn't living in Japan in the 1980s. This just does not feel at all like how, in my experience, Japanese people speak. And it really sticks out to me. The other characters are more or less fine, but the way Tsugumi speaks really just sticks out like a sore thumb to me, and it grates me every time. But I would say that's really the only major con that I have with the book. The only other con that I would really say is, like I said, with a lot of Banana Yoshimoto's work, it's warm, it's very introspective, and that's cool, but there's just not a super lot of depth to it. But in terms of the and this is where I think she really excels, as I said, at capturing that emotion, capturing those feelings of sort of transient times of ages as they're on the precipice of change, and of memories and living in memories, and how memories can really help nourish our futures, and how the people around us really affect us and can help us find our inner strength. So, in terms of the con, going back to that, I say it doesn't have a lot of depth. I can see somebody reading it, and it's difficult for me to sort of criticize, especially coming off of Sisters in Yellow, which my major criticism of Sisters in Yellow was that it was sort of a crime story, and a fairly predictable crime story coming from an author where I expect more. I guess this is a situation where, again, if you have no expectations, or if you have higher expectations for Banana Yoshimoto, then this kind of story could feel fairly trite. But for me, knowing what I'm getting into with the Banana Yoshimoto book, knowing that this is exactly what to expect, that doesn't bother me. I'm only listing it as a con because maybe somebody who is expecting more from her books might not get more. But I really do think that the expectation is what defines the difference between Sisters in Yellow, where I really wanted more from Miyako Kawakami, and Goodbye Tsugumi, where I'm okay with it, because both tell fairly trite and predictable stories. But it's really the difference in that expectation. So where for me it's still okay because Banana Yoshimoto meets that expectation, I'm still going to go ahead and call it a semi-con, but kind of a semi-pro as well. Like, it depends on the time and day. So going back to the pros, the book is short, doesn't overstay its welcome. Like I said, I read it at work while I was just waiting for the afternoon, just sat down and read the whole thing. So everything that's associated with that in terms of the prose is easily readable. And one of the things that I think is so key about the readability of the prose, because one of the things I've been thinking about when I talk about readable prose, and why I always list that as a pro, versus maybe somebody who gets frustrated with the simplistic prose, and who might list simplistic prose as a negative. For me, there's a certain emotion that gets captured in this sort of simplistic prose by the fact that the book isn't constantly calling attention to itself as a book, or constantly sort of distracting you with its cleverness and its turns of phrases. And I know some people really, really like that in a book, and I'm not saying that it's a negative if a book has that. But there is a certain sense of intellectual works, things that are intellectually written, where they end up constantly drawing attention to themselves, and you're kind of constantly stopping in sort of appreciation of a way something is worded or a way something is phrased. And I find that can make it more difficult to get on the emotional wavelength of the characters, because I'm constantly kind of stopping and thinking about the way something is phrased more so than what it's actually saying. And this isn't to say that that's bad. It's just they're just different techniques, and they accomplish different things, and so should be employed in different ways. And the reason that I'm listing the readable prose as a pro in this particular book is because, like I said, Banana Yoshimoto's strength lies in her ability to capture those emotions, and part of capturing those emotions, I sincerely feel, lies in the simplicity of the language, which lets it become something more universal. Because I think that the more specific you get in your language, the more you kind of narrow it down to a certain viewpoint. And by using more basic language, you allow for more universal experience and more relatable experience. So depending on the type of book that you're writing, one is going to be preferable to the other. And in this case, I think that the prose matches the book very well in that sense. And the pacing also goes along with that. Like there's really no drag, no wait, no slow points in this book. It just starts and ends. And I keep saying book, but fuck's sake, it's probably a novella. The version that I have, it's actually the size of my hand. Actually, my hand is bigger in terms of height, so I can just palm this thing. I carried it to and from work in my pocket. That's the size that it is. So very small, easy to take with you, easy to read. And like I said, it's just the kind of story that you feel warm at the end of. And I'm going to list that as a pro, but I think, well, I guess it's really more the fact that she accomplishes that feeling and conjuring that feeling that is a pro, rather than necessarily the fact that I felt it at all. So moving on to the themes, and this is where, as ever, full spoilers from this point out. There's two themes. Like I said, there's the reminiscence aspect of the story, and then there's Tsugumi herself and living life to its fullest, even when it seems like there's not much reason to. And so I talked a lot about the memory, and I think, to me, the Tsugumi side of things is the easier to grasp part, because, it's sort of explicitly stated multiple times, like Tsugumi is not really understood by the people around her, that she really does care, that she really does have this side to her that is afraid, or that does love life, and all these other things. And she's kind of going back to using anime terms, she's just stereotypical tsundere. So like, I don't really have a whole lot to say, I think, about Tsugumi, just because you can read the book and you'll understand everything there is about Tsugumi, which isn't to say that it's bad. It's just why talk about the obvious? So I want to talk about the still obvious, but I think really the part that is hitting home for me is the memories and the transient states, and how to say goodbye to a time and an era in a way that is both giving it credit and bringing you the emotional closure that you need, without also sort of belaboring the issue. And I think the book does a good job of that, because I think especially one of the things that when it comes to these types of stories that bothers me is that there's always this sense that after this we'll never see each other again. It's sort of like the high school graduation, and after high school nothing will be the same. And that's not literally what's happening in the story, but it's that sort of idea that, like, after graduation everything will be different. We'll all go our separate ways and we'll never see each other again. And while it is true that there are phases in our lives where things do change, what I like about this book is that there is this tacit acknowledgement that they will continue to see each other after this. They will continue to be cousins. They'll continue to be friends with the guy that they meet when they're there. I'm terrible with names, so Kyoichi. They will continue to be friends with Kyoichi, and it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the relationship. It's not the end of all that. But it is the end of a time. It is the end of a certain period, the end of an era, the end of a way of living. And that from this point forward, that style of living will only exist in their memories. And sort of the melancholy that comes with that. Because a lot of other books that I've heard, or that I've read, and you see it in movies too, talk about how things can be kept alive in your memories. And this is true. But at the same time, alive in your memories is not really alive and not really existence. And there is still a sadness to that I think that this book captures well. And it really is about experiencing that emotion vicariously through the book, where I think that there's value in it for me, or to me rather. Because, like I said, I'm experiencing those same emotions. So seeing those reflected in a book makes me feel like, I could kind of give this book to somebody and say, this is what I'm feeling right now, to a greater or lesser extent. Just that goodbye, saying goodbye to an age and moving forward to the next stage in your life. Although, and this is another thing that I think kind of sets this book apart from a lot of books like this, is that there isn't that element. Usually when you have these books about moving on to the next stage in your life, there's an element of uncertainty about it. But I don't get that with these characters. Maria is happy in her new life with her new family. She's happy going to university. She has a place in Tokyo. And part of this book has been her coming to realize and appreciate that as much as she loved her old village and lifestyle, she has this new lifestyle that she also loves. And rather, like I said, most stories about this are about uncertainty about the future, the end of the age and not knowing where the future goes. But this book is more about reconciling the end of an age and a part of your life that you love, the old parts of your life, with the new parts of your life that you love. And not just how, one needs to be sacrificed for the other, but how the two can exist side by side. And even as the old life fades away, it's the fact that the new life works and is comfortable gives you a kind of hope and a kind of maturity that even though it won't be the same, you will still find a new equilibrium between Tsugumi and between Maria and between Kyoichi and Yoko. And it's that sort of growing up. But what I like about it, again, separate from, what sets it apart for me, is that, again, it's not explicitly about growing up. It's not explicitly a sort of coming of age story, because, like I said, there already is this old and new life, and it's not super dramatic in that way. It's that the reason that this sort of theme sticks out so much to me, that I appreciate so much how it's handled, is because it's so subtle and understated, and I think it becomes all the more powerful for it, because much as real life does have its moments, I feel like a lot of reality differs from fiction in the way that a lot of these sort of realizations happen so slowly and so steadily that it's hard to even say that it's a realization. There's no just aha moment. It's just you kind of gradually come to accept and understand as you go, as you sort of transition from one stage to the other. And it's not about transitioning from child to adult. It's just life in general being this one long transformation that we're all going through. And that's kind of the big thing that I take away from this book, more so than sort of the obvious aspects of Tsugumi and the tsundere she is, and how her strength ends up defining and giving strength to the other characters, and her sort of vivaciousness and love of life gives the other characters a love of life. Like, that stuff is all there, and that stuff is all obvious, but this is this part that really speaks to me. And like I said, it maybe I'm just completely biased in saying that because of where I'm at in life, but I think that's one of the great things about reading in particular, but all fiction, is what you bring to it is really going to impact what you get out of it. And so this is where I'm at this stage in my life, and this is what I'm getting out of this book. And I wouldn't be surprised if this book forever becomes tied to the one day that I took it to work during spring vacation and read through the whole thing. And it was the same day that I said goodbye to a teacher that I'd been working with for 2 years and enjoyed working with very much. So in that sense, yeah, maybe this is less a review of Goodbye Tsugumi and more a review or a talk about my experiences reading Goodbye Tsumugi. I keep saying Tsugumi. But that's where I'm at. And, to a greater or lesser extent, that's all reading. So that's why I will still upload this with the title of review. So join me next time. I'm next up going to be reading the first book of Nosgard's My Struggle series. So see you then.